Well, joining me live is the Trade Minister, Don Farrell. Don Farrell, thanks for your time. And I wanted to start by talking about this issue of critical minerals and some of the moves the government has made to keep smelters going, even if they are owned by large multinationals with plenty of cash. Now, it's my understanding you're telling the American, or the government's telling the American administration about this, and I assume they're happy with the progress in trying to lift critical mineral processing in this country.
Yeah, look, nice to be with you again, Andrew. Australia, once again, is the lucky country. We've got vast resources of the critical minerals that the world is going to need to decarbonise, to build data centres, to process AI, and all of the things that critical minerals are going to be crucial in. What we don't always have, of course, is the financial resources to extract those minerals. And so, what the Australian government has been trying to do in recent years is to ensure that we've got partners with us to extract those minerals. And we've been talking to the Europeans. The European Trade Minister is going to be in Australia in a few weeks' time for further discussions. We are talking with the Japanese, the Koreans, and of course we're talking with the Americans. So we see wonderful opportunities. In fact, I've often described it as a golden age for critical minerals. 2 weeks ago, I was with the Premier of South Australia at Roxby Downs. We were a kilometre underground, and we announced the doubling of Olympic Dam's copper mining processing. Currently they produce about 300,000 tonnes per year. That's going to double over the next few years to 600,000 tonnes. So we're very focused on critical minerals, and we want to ensure that we become a reliable supplier of critical minerals to the rest of the world.
Including and especially to the US. That's what these grants are about, aren't they?
Look, it's all about making sure that Australia, we're lucky to have all of these critical minerals, but we've got to be able to extract them. It's not just about the US, Andrew. It's all about making sure that we become a reliable supplier to the rest of the world. We learnt two parliaments ago just how dangerous it is to put all your eggs in the one basket. We want to ensure that we can supply these products, these minerals, to the rest of the world, and that'll be the focus of the government over the near future.
Well, the Nine newspapers has a report this morning about a proposal for a $1.2 billion strategic reserve for critical minerals and a price floor, and that's been consulted with the mining industry ahead of this White House meeting of Mr Albanese. Can you confirm that report? Can you confirm that proposal's being looked at?
Look, we're having discussions all of the time. There wouldn't be a week that goes by where we don't have some discussions with either miners. As I said, I was at Roxby Downs just 2 weeks ago, where we were talking very much about the issue of critical minerals. We're an action government, Andrew, and we'd like to do things, and we'd like to create wealth for Australian companies and Australian workers. So the world needs the critical minerals that Australia is lucky enough to have, and so all of our focus has been on ensuring, firstly, that we can extract these minerals, and secondly, that we can find buyers for them. There's a bit of a difference between, say, an iron ore mine and a critical mineral mine. Iron ore, if you go up to the Pilbara, you can see iron ore as far as the eye can see. Critical minerals are a bit different. They're in much smaller groups, and they're much deeper down, and so they're more expensive to extract than, say, iron ore. So we're going to need investments from right around the world to ensure that we are able to extract these minerals, to process them and sell them to the rest of the world.
How would a strategic reserve work?
Oh, look, I'll leave that to the Resources Minister. We've got an excellent Resources Minister in Madeleine King. That's her space, and I'm not going to step into to her space. But can I say, we value our ability to sell these products to the rest of the world, and that's what we're going to do. You
seem really at pains to ensure that when you're not tying this to the US relationship, but I feel like, Don Farrell, you're doing a bit of a dance here. You don't want to annoy the Chinese government too much. Is that what's happening here? Why can't you just be up front and say, look, this is going to be a critical part of the Albanese-Trump meeting? Some sort of critical minerals agreement, potentially.
Look, I'm being very upfront, as I always am with you, Andrew. I'm always very upfront with you, and what I'm trying to explain to you is that Australia doesn't just want to have one customer for its critical minerals. We've seen in the past what happens when you put all of your eggs in the one basket. So, and this is not about upsetting China either. We've got these vast mineral resources. What we don't always have is the capital to extract these minerals. What we need is partners in that process. And we're having to, as I said, a couple of weeks' time, we've got the Europeans out here. They're interested in our critical minerals, the Japanese, the South Koreans and the Americans. And so we need to have a broad range of customers, firstly to provide us with the capital to extract the products, but secondly to ensure that we've got guaranteed markets to sell these critical minerals.
Let me ask you very sort of in black and white terms here. Is there a proposal for a critical minerals agreement between Australia and the US still on the table, potentially for signing off at this White House meeting?
Look, we've been discussing the issue of critical minerals from, I think, the day Donald Trump became President of the United States. There's no secrets about that, Andrew. We've been very public that, you know, we would like to have an agreement on critical minerals, as we've got with the Europeans, with the United States. There's no secrets about that. Just when that agreement might be reached, I'm not going to predict those things. These things always take a lot longer to do than you'd like them to do. But I'm sure that one of these days we will reach an agreement with the United States, as we've done with the Europeans.
One of these days, next Monday, next Monday, Don Farrell, perhaps, US time. Just putting it out there.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
What do you make of the spat that's broken out then between?
Well, you're always very good
at predicting.
Sorry.
Were you about to say I'm good at predicting? That's what the crystal ball is
about. I'm just saying, you're always. I always like your predictions, Andrew, because they always come true.
Oh well, almost always. But I'm glad you put almost in there. Now, what do you make of this spat that's broken out between President Trump and President Xi over these export controls? President Xi is saying he's going to introduce in November.
Yeah. Look, our view all the way along the line has been that we support free and fair trade. And it's not just from us to China or us to the United States. We see great value in stability and the rules-based system of international trade. So to the extent that we can influence events and participate in events, what we would like to see is stability and adherence to the rules-based international trading system. And that's next year. We've got another meeting of the World Trade Organization in Africa. We'll be advocating very strongly for the reform of the World Trade Organization, but most importantly, for the continuation of a rules-based free and fair trade system.
Could we face retaliatory action, trade action from China if we team with the US on critical minerals. Is there any fears for you as Trade Minister in relation to that?
Look, we have to make decisions in our national interest, Andrew, and what's in our national interest is making sure that we can extract and sell these critical minerals to the rest of the world. All the decisions that the Albanese government will be making in the future about the sale of our critical minerals will be based on that simple principle: what is in our national interest? If it's in our national interest to sell these products to a particular country, then that's exactly what we'll be doing.
And I presume the calculation is it's not in the national interest for China to tie up 95% of these.
Well, look, it's important, I think, for the rest of the world that there be alternative sources of these products. Australia, as I've said, is the lucky country. We've got, I've heard the Prime Minister say this on a number of occasions, we've got virtually every item on the periodic table. What we don't always have is the resources to extract them. We're looking for partners to do that. And we are going to be. I mean, one of the things Australia is really good at is extracting minerals. We've got one of the best mining industries in the world. What we want to be able to do is to supply to the rest of the world in a reliable way. I mean, we've always been a reliable supplier of products, and that's what we want to be to the rest of the world into the future.
I want to move on now. Donald Trump's efforts in the Middle East. Does he deserve a Nobel Peace Prize? And there's been criticism of Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese for claiming some sort of role in engineering peace. Are their claims fair?
Look, the Australian government has, from the time that this conflict started, have been advocating for a peaceful resolution. And of course we were delighted last week to see that that has been achieved, and all credit to President Trump for the way in which he was able to insert himself into this process and get a peaceful outcome. We have all along advocated for the return of the hostages, greater humanitarian aid into Gaza, and a peaceful resolution. We're a middle power in this process, but we have certainly contributed, I think, to the resolution of this issue by the careful and considered way that the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister have expressed Australia's views on these issues.
Do you think there'd be potential for Australian peacekeepers in Gaza?
Oh, look, I don't know whether that will be requested. I'm not aware of any request along those lines, and I think we just wait and see what unfolds in the days and the weeks ahead. I think the important thing here is that a peace agreement has been achieved. And that it hold into the future, and there can be a resolution to the ongoing disputes in the Middle East.
I wanted to ask about your role as Special Minister of State as well, and you've kicked two proposals off to a committee. One involves actually having more MPs in the Parliament, another for 4-year terms or fixed terms. First of all, why on earth do we need more politicians? Aren't there enough of you?
Well, that's why I've issued the instruction to the committee to give some consideration to this. Since Federation, so 125 years ago, the Parliament has only been increased twice. The last time that the Parliament was increased was in the mid-1980s under Bob Hawke. At that time, the population of Australia was 16 million. By the time of the next election, the population will almost have doubled. Will be about 29 million people. And so all I've said is it's worth having consideration as to whether now is the time to look at increasing the representation in the federal Parliament. we're not saying it has to be done. We're simply saying, look, after each election, we consider all of the issues that occurred during the last election, and one of them is the question about whether or not we should increase the number of parliamentarians.
And the four-year term.
Obviously, the bigger the sorry.
Go on.
Yeah. Look. People, the constituents expect their parliamentarians to represent them. The more people in an electorate, of course, the more work that needs to be done. All we're saying is let's have a look at the issue and see whether or not it's worth considering.
The four-year term, briefly, the four-year term idea or fixed terms. Would fixed terms require a referendum like four-year terms do? And we know how well referendums go.
Yeah, they don't go too well, do they, Andrew? No, it would require a referendum, and again, that's obviously a difficult barrier to overcome. What I find in this job, sooner in the job trying to do some things, but then you're back, you're back at an election. So again, it's an issue worth considering. All of the state governments now have four-year terms, so the states have managed to achieve this. They don't have the same constitutional requirements that the federal government does, but again, it's an issue worth having consideration of.
And just finally, on the matter of ISIS brides, could the government have been more upfront about the fact you knew these individuals were coming back to Australia, and are there more applying to come back?
Look, as to your second question, I don't know the answer to that, Andrew. But no, look, I think we've been upfront. The government hasn't been assisting these people to return to Australia. So if they've managed to return to Australia, it's been under their own steam.
Although I guess we granted them passports, you might argue there wasn't a choice. Don Farrell, thanks very much for your time.
Nice talking with you, Andrew.